Welcome to the WinEH podcast. This show is focused on empowering ranchers. Whether you're a seasoned rancher or just getting started, we'll guide you on how to use the infinite banking concept as an alternative way to finance your operations. It's a better way to think about money. Join us as we discuss planning for the future, attracting the next generation, and the art of keeping more money within the family. Here's your hosts, Winnie and Lacy.
Hello over there. We are so honored that you are choosing to lean in with us today. We are going to get going on the subject of how can the infinite banking concept, IBC, be applied in your ranching operations?
Yeah, this is an exciting topic for me because I live on a ranch. I'm married to a rancher.
Right. So let's think about, some folks that we've talked to in the past. Let's hone in on a particular one without mentioning any names. So, Lacy, why don't you get into it?
Yeah. So a couple of years ago, we started off with some clients wanting to learn more, looking for a solution to a problem they were having, wanting to get away from the banks, tired of giving close to $100,000 every year to the bank and interest charges. Oof. Yeah, almost $100,000. So when in those initial conversations, I remember asking the question, what would it do for you if you could keep that almost $100,000 for yourself and for your own cash flow rather than giving it up to the bank? And so these clients were motivated. We put policies in place for them. They've been very coachable right off the hop. They fully funded their policies. Second year came around, fully funded them again. And in 2 short years, and I know, like we always say, time flies, and sometimes it feels like, what's that saying? Like the days are long, but the years are short. 2 short years later, they have built up a pool of money that is over half of what their operating expenses are each year on their ranching operation. And so in 2 more short years, they will no longer have to go to the bank for their operating expenses. They will own them themselves.
Yeah, talking about that's a solid way to apply the infinite banking concept inside your ranching operations, right? Like just being the owner or the owner of your own debt so that you can recapture the interest that you would otherwise pay to someone else.
Yep.
But number 2, something that really cannot be quantified in dollars is the sheer fact, so when we talk about policies, if you haven't heard the episode, what is IBC, when we're talking about policies here, and if it's kind of leaving you a little bit like there's a gap here, what do they mean by policies? We're talking about using the financial vehicle, which happens to be a whole life dividend insurance contract. And again, not all, it sounds very specific, but it can be set up in many different ways. So, but it is used in conjunction with the mindset that's talked about in this book, Becoming Your Own Banker or Farming Without the Bank, right? And you're going to get a lot more clarity if you want to dive in a lot deeper, especially when you read the case study sections too, to really appreciate what Lacy just shared with us, that it is possible to really start turning things around with focus.
Yeah.
To change that experience come tax time. And again, this actually reminds me of the very first ranching clients I ever dealt with. And I just remember the reason why they really started taking a look at how, how could they apply this to their own ranching operation is because they just got all of their financial statements back from their accountant. And similar to the folks that you were talking about, they saw that they paid $250,000 in interest to the bank, and they netted themselves $240,000.
Right.
So they gave the bank $250,000 in interest, which the bank did none of the work except for lend money that was made up of thin air anyways. Oh, Did I say that out loud? Anyways, it's just like it, and then they didn't take on any of the risk. They didn't take on any of they didn't do any of the labor, and then they got paid less than the interest that they had to pay out the bank. That's like a kick in the teeth.
Yeah.
Right. And this is year after year after year after year in your ranching operations that you were giving up this money that you could have otherwise put to work for you.
Yeah.
Right. And so,
yeah, it's, I think, when I had this conversation with these clients, so I'm like, look, in 2 short years, this is what you've done. In 2 more short years, this is where you're set to be. Just the relief and that'll feel so good to not have to be a slave to the lender, to not have that hanging over their heads anymore, and just feeling more in control rather than the bank being in control, and more freedom and options, not feeling so strapped is a good word for it. So controlled by the lenders, just to, I'm going to say survive, but what we want to do, we want to survive and we want to thrive. And I know that they are feeling that they're leaning more on that side of thriving, where when they came to us, it was more of a surviving.
And I mean, where this applies in your operations is both not just for the sake of numbers and cents, but just as you just spoke to, it comes as an experience, a feeling, right? And if year after year after year, you're having to work to pay off the lenders quicker than you otherwise would, because there's a lot of uncontrollable factors in the ranching world, right? Not that I live it, but I've had enough conversations and I listen, right? I listen to what are the challenges that you all face, and sometimes there's going to be a really great year because the profits that you receive for your cows or for your horses it's a good year, right? Just due to the marketplace, or and it's a good year due to circumstances that you yourself don't even have any control over.
The weather,
so it's great when it works out in your favor, right? But there's also tons of years too where there's a lot of circumstances where it doesn't work out in your favor, and now when you're not as profitable in a year, you really have to work extra hard the following year to make up for the year that you just had.
Yeah, I just had a conversation actually with clients last week, and they said, we don't know from year to year what, we're not going to a job where we know what our salary is. We know what our paycheck's coming in every 2 weeks or every month. We really don't know, because it's so dependent on the market. It's dependent on the weather. It hasn't rained for 4 years, and now we've gotten some rain. And I don't think even for ourselves, okay, well, we're going to have to sell some cow-calf pairs. Oh, it rained. However much it rained, we're good. We can keep some. We can keep more than we anticipated. And so I think for ranchers, it is very strategic in planning your finances, because it is so up and down, and we don't ever really know what is the year end going to look like, because it's so dependent. That's why you always hear the farmers and the ranchers are checking the weather every day, because they are, okay, is it a good time to seed? Can I get in the field? Is the grass going to grow? Is it time to harvest? If I start harvesting today, do I have a window where I can get it done? Another farmer that I talked to, I should have sold my grain 2 months ago, and now I held on to it because I thought, and it's less up and down. Oh, the coulda, woulda, shouldas are a constant in this industry.
with so much uncertainty that happens inside, the operations of a rancher and a farmer, wouldn't it be nice if you created a financial environment that took out a lot of the stress around the terms and conditions that are imposed upon us, rightfully so, because if he who is the lender is in control. But if you took over that function in your life, then this is how infinite banking can be applied in your operations, because it really helps to create a whole other environment where you can breathe a lot more in the up and downs of your world, right? And not only that, but then, if you multiply this over year, right? If you maintain doing what you're doing now and you kept doing business with the banks and choosing to be under the terms and conditions of somebody else, it is wearing on a person's mental health, I think, right? Really, to put it, like, how can you really be making great financial decisions if you're always constantly in kind of feeling like you're backed into the corner and doing what you can only do based on what's happening right in that moment? Right. But you can really use infinite banking to give yourself a much better runway that is going to create a lot more, one of the words that I'm looking for, like just a more stress-free way of being, so that it gives you more ability to be proactive in the way that you are able to make a decision. And
leaves you with choices too. I think there's actually a statistic around mental health and farmers, ranchers, that it's one of the industries with the highest mental health crisis. And it is because of all of the uncertainties. And so if, we can educate you on IBC, coach you through that, it's one of those things that in the choices that you make every day, or the processes that you implement into your operation, that can provide that peace and hope and give you a little bit of a, break on that strain of that mental strain that running a business in this industry is, because it absolutely is.
Yeah. And to really add one more thing that really comes to mind for me right in this moment is, how infinite banking can be applied. When you get into a place where, if you can reimagine taking away the stress of you actually having the control of when you pay yourself back, which sounds amazing and almost unreal. And that's why I think most people quite often say, oh man, this just sounds too good to be true, because they've spent a lifetime and maybe generations being taught that the only way to get through this, get through the years of ranching is by, including the banks, right? But when you can get into a place, like, because right now, if you kept doing what you're doing and you're financially stressed the majority of the time, how does that overall spill into if you have kids or if you have business partners? If half the struggle of what they're seeing is financial, it gets harder and harder to convince the next generation to stay in the business. If, it doesn't matter how awesome the lifestyle is. Like, I think half the time it's the carrot at the end of the stick. Keep going, because we want to stay here. We want to keep living this lifestyle. But man, right? With the younger generations these days, sometimes I think it's harder for them to want to stay because they see how much financial struggle there is. So
100%. Yeah. Reed and I just had this conversation last night on our drive about, we're at a point in life, as a society where you can't just come home to the ranch and there's very few opportunities where you just walk in and there's enough income, there's enough land, there's enough for the next generation to just come willingly with no financial burden on the generation that's leaving. And so that's where IBC, we can help to heal that financial divide where it doesn't seem possible for the next generation to come in and actually make a go of it. Like Reed always says that, make a go. But with infinite banking, we can create that path where they can come in and it can be a success. And so that's like super exciting for us and for me to be sharing that with people because, hey, there is a way. When the world is telling us there's not a way, we're here to tell you there is a way.
Yeah. And right when you're saying that too, I was getting super excited. It's like, yes, get to a place where you can confidently feel the ranch can provide and that the family is on the same page. It's like the ranch can provide and the ranch does provide. And so when they come home for those visits, it's not like, you know, hopefully unconsciously they're coming back and say, yeah, we're here to help. We're here to do because they know that the ranch can provide, right? So really the infinite banking concept, again, we're completely biased.
Yeah.
But it's because we've taken some time to really dig into this. So Lacy, why don't you share with us, and for those who have joined us today, what could be their next step?
Yeah. So thank you for listening. Head over to our website, rancherway.com. You're going to want to grab your books. Nelson's book, Becoming Your Own Banker, Farming Without the Bank. You need them. Read them. Reach out to us, Lacy at rancherway.com or Winnie at rancherway.com. See you later.
So glad you leaned in with us on the WinEH podcast. We truly hope you're feeling more informed and empowered to take another step towards optimizing your financial life. Right now, make sure you hit subscribe so you can keep growing and learning with us. Until next time, we wish you prosperity in every area of your life.